Bula Vinaka, and welcome to Bula Wellness on FBC TV. I'm your host, Dr. Alicia Sahukan, the Head of Health Protection with the Ministry of Health and Medical Services. So I work in communicable disease or infectious disease. And today we will be talking about a disease that starts or is caused by a communicable disease, but later becomes a non-communicable disease or an NCD. So we're talking about rheumatic heart disease, also known as RHD. So rheumatic heart disease is a significant health problem in Fiji, with just over 35 children in every 1,000 aged 5 to 14 years estimated to have the disease. So this is almost one child in every classroom in Fiji. And at least 60 people every year die because of rheumatic heart disease. To talk to us about RHD today, we have Dr. Sainimariam Bolondondoa, the Public Health Advisor for the RHD program under the Wellness Center at the Ministry of Health and Medical Services. Later in the show, we will follow the Ministry's school health team as they conduct screening for RHD at a primary school in Suva. That and more coming up later. But first, let's see what some of you in the public know about rheumatic heart disease.
As a good parent, as a good father, we've been hearing on television and likewise news that it is one of the major contributing deaths, especially in young kids. And for us parents, if we're not vigilant, we're not careful about this, it can be a very drastic situation in the near future. That's the way I see it.
Rheumatic heart disease, I got to a point to understand when one of my granddaughter from Holy Trinity was checked by the Ministry of Health, and she was referred to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, I talked with the doctors, and they said it can be through playing or an old sore or something. And then she had a scanning done and also x-ray. But then she was cleared, which is good.
Mostly infants or early births, and especially even to adults to some extent. Thank you.
Primary age, up to Form 2, Form 3. That's what the school said, and the nurses told me at the hospital.
Probably most from genetics or due to improper, diets, I'd say. And
it started with my granddaughter Lani was saying she usually have, breathing, problem with breathing, and also body aches. And through the testing at the school, that's when they picked it up, and they referred us to the hospital.
I'd say 80% chances of yes, provided if proper medications or proper trainings or by Ministry of Health or likewise. And above all, it's all about parents, like I'm saying. If parents do their bit, it can help other kids or other families in minimizing this very deadly sickness, I'd say.
It is curable. That's what the doctor says, if it's sort of detected early.
So many different opinions and thoughts from the public about RHD there. But to help us know more, let's welcome our guest tonight, Dr. Sainimariam Bolondondoa, the project lead for the RHD program in the Ministry of Health and Medical Services. Bula, Dr. Sainimariam, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hello, Alicia.
So, could you tell us, what is rheumatic heart disease?
Sure. So rheumatic heart disease is first of all, as the name states, it's a disease of the heart. It's a chronic condition whereby specifically the valves of the heart are affected or are damaged. It is an acquired disease, so people are not born with it. It's the most commonly acquired disease for younger people, and because it's, like I said, it's chronic, so it doesn't develop overnight. It takes a while. It takes sometimes years to develop. So yeah, basically it's a chronic disease of the heart valves, whereby the heart valves are damaged, causing further damage to the heart.
So heart disease, commonly when we think of heart disease, we think of older people getting it, and it's due to lifestyle, diet changes, for example. But how do people get rheumatic heart disease?
So rheumatic heart disease is, it most commonly starts off in childhood, most commonly starts with a sore throat. There's a disease process. It most commonly starts with a sore throat caused by this bacteria, this germ called group A streptococcus, strep in short. So sore throats, and it most commonly affects children. So as we know, sore throats are quite common, and most sore throats are caused by viruses. It's not bacteria. So, and because of that, it just goes away on its own. This particular one that's caused by the strep germ is only a small percentage of sore throats are caused by strep germ. So it doesn't go away by itself. If it's not treated, this sore throat with the strep germ, it then can trigger off another process, a disease process, which is known as rheumatic fever. And rheumatic fever most commonly affects children again between the ages of 5 to 15. And if it's not treated, then rheumatic fever's common symptoms are fever and sore, swollen joints. Yeah? That's how it most commonly manifests in children. If it's not treated, then repeated episodes of this rheumatic fever then cause the scarring and damage to the heart valves of the heart, which is what is known as the rheumatic heart disease.
Okay. So it starts with a sore throat. That would be quite worrying for any parent, because as we know, children are quite frequently sick. Yeah. They get running nose, sore throat. It seems like they're touching everything, so they get sick very easily. So as a parent, what should I be looking out for, and when should I be taking my child to a doctor if they have a sore throat?
So, yeah. That's true. Sore throats are quite common, and kids are prone to have them quite often with all the viral illnesses that are around us all the time. But what we're trying to stress to the public, to parents, is not to take sore throats lightly, even though it might be viral. It most probably will be viral, but just to have that awareness that it could be not viral, and just to have it checked. My message would be just to have that sore throats checked, particularly in that age group, the 5 to 15, where they're more at risk of developing these rheumatic fevers. So just to get it checked, and if it's the health professional, the nurse or doctor, should examine them and check them, and then they'll be able to determine if it's a viral one or a bacterial, and if it needs treatment at that stage.
Okay. Very interesting discussion. I think we'll just go for a short break and then come back in our discussion with Dr. Saini Mary. Thank you. Welcome back to Bula Wellness on FBC TV. We are talking to Dr. Saini Mary Bolondondoa from the RHD program with the Ministry of Health and Medical Services. Thank you again, Dr. Saini Mary, for being on the show today. So before we went to break, we were talking about who gets rheumatic heart disease, and that it comes from having a sore throat, and that from that sore throat you get what's known as rheumatic fever, and that's actually what damages your heart valves. So when do you normally see people coming up with rheumatic heart disease itself?
So here in Fiji, it's we see them when they're young. So from the ages of the ages that I've said, from 5 to 15. That's the age group that we most commonly see them. But we see them when they're older as well. They're in their 20s, their 30s as well. So the group of 40 and below.
Okay. And how do you find it? How do you diagnose it?
So most commonly, currently we see them when they come in with the complications of rheumatic heart disease, when they most commonly present with heart failure, and that's when we're able to, when we know that, when we find out what is causing the heart failure, then we diagnose them. We find out that it's the rheumatic heart disease that's caused it. So when they come in with a complication, so for example, the most common ones are heart failure, heart arrhythmias, stroke, even in these young people. It's a different age group that we're seeing this disease profile in.
Could you give us a bit more information about rheumatic heart disease in Fiji, like the numbers, how many children actually get it, how many people die from it every year?
So currently we have about almost 4,000 people in our register. We've got a national register where we keep track of all the people who've been diagnosed with both rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease. So it's almost 4,000. Majority of these 4,000 are under the age of 30. So about 70% of them are young. So these are young people we're talking about who have this, who've been diagnosed with this disease. Yes, so the figure that you quoted before, the one in every classroom, we quote that figure because it's almost, the study have shown that it's 1 in 50 children have confirmed rheumatic heart disease. So if we think of our classrooms in Fiji, that's about 1 in every classroom. So that's it's quite common. I think, you mentioned also as well, we're picking them up later. We know, ideally, we'd like to diagnose them earlier because, like I said, it's an acquired disease. Kids are not born with this disease, they acquire them later. So ideally, we'd like to pick it up early, diagnose it early so that we can put them on treatment so that we can prevent the complications and save these lives. And the ministry is doing work to try and do that, to try and pick them up earlier, but also to put them on treatment and keep them on treatment. We're fortunate that there's an antibiotic treatment that still works, a penicillin injection that still works after all these years. It's called benzathine penicillin. The people who've been diagnosed with RHD have to be on this treatment for a minimum of 10 years. So it's a big ask. And so, that's another challenge is first diagnosing, first putting them on treatment, but also keeping them connected to the health system so they keep coming for their treatment. Because it's a bit of it's a long duration for them to keep it. So,
So for the Ministry of Health is working to find it early. So after the break, we'll actually look at some of your screening programs. We're actually going into schools and doing echocardiograms, or the scans of the heart, to find this disease. Once you find it, then you're saying you need to go on treatment. And this treatment is in the form of penicillin injection. How often do they go in for the injection?
We put them on, they go in every 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the severity of disease. Some are every 3 weeks, some are every 4 weeks.
So for at least 10 years,
at least 10
they're
years.
on that.
Yes.
And what is that to prevent?
So that's to prevent to protect them from getting more episodes of the rheumatic fever.
Okay.
Because the more, once you have RHD, you're more at risk of getting the rheumatic fever. And with repeated episodes of rheumatic fever, the damage, already damaged valves, just gets worse. The scarring and the damage of the valves.
So the rheumatic fever actually it attacks the heart valves. And every time you have rheumatic fever, it keeps attacking the heart valves, and of course, it gets more damaged.
Worsening the rheumatic heart disease.
And, have you found that people with rheumatic heart disease, what is their response? Do they come in? Because coming in every 3 weeks for the injection, that's quite a big ask, especially for young people.
Yes. That we found it's a big challenge. I mean, we as adults, it's one thing trying to, and it's an injection. It's not, injections are not pain-free. But the response we get from them, obviously initially there's a shock, the denial. It's when people hear heart, it's serious to them, but trying to get the message across to them, yes, that there is a treatment for it. And one thing is that we've noticed is, if they understand, if we just spend a bit more time trying to explain to them about the disease, about the importance of the treatment, if they understand that, then they'll come, we'll get their buy-in to come, the parents especially. Yeah? For those that we've lost or been lost to follow-up, they have not been coming with injections, what we most often find is that they, it's just the understanding of the lack of knowledge. Yeah? They just don't understand the disease. So we're trying to improve their knowledge, spend more time telling them, counseling them about the disease and about the importance of the treatment for it.
And because the alternative to that is that it gets worse.
It gets worse.
You go into heart failure, and then sadly we get quite young people actually passing away.
Yes.
Yep.
Unfortunately. Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Saini Mary. It's indeed been a very informative and eye-opening discussion. And we are grateful that you took out the time to come and talk to us today. After the break, we will follow the school Ministry of Health school health team as they conduct screening for RHD at a primary school in Suva. So don't go away.
Today we're in the Lenomasi Government School. We're here as part of the school health team. So this is from the Ministry of Health. Every subdivision area has a school health team that comes from the local subdivision. And the school health team comprises of a doctor or a nurse practitioner and a number of nurses and a dietitian. So they perform the normal school checks and provide immunizations and as well. We have added as well to this wellness checks the rheumatic heart disease screening. Screen them by performing scans of their heart, just to check if there are any abnormalities, if they have to show if they have rheumatic heart disease or RHD. The whole idea is to diagnose it earlier so that we can put them on treatment so that we can manage the disease that way. Yeah? Because at the moment, we see far too many children or young people coming to hospital with the complications of RHD, yeah? When they have heart failure or heart arrhythmias, disturbances of the heart rhythm, or stroke, or even death. Yeah? They're coming late to the hospital. So, this is an exercise to try and detect the disease early so we can put them on treatment and help them manage it well. The amount of days that the school health team spends in a school is determined by the school role. So Ndelenamas is a big school, so we've been here for 5 days now. Today's the 5th day. Other small schools, they probably only there for a day or two. So screening happens every day from Monday. So the nurses are doing the screening. Yeah? They're performing the scans of the heart of these children, and then they're trying to see if they're able to pick up any abnormalities within the heart, the heart valves. If they do, the nurses then make a note of these children. They keep a list of these kids. Sonographer comes in on the last day, bringing in her big, the echo machine, the echocardiography machine. She then does the confirmatory echo. She does the full echo of the students that have been noted by the nurses that have it. So she performs the echo on these children, and then confirms the diagnosis or not. She may say, oh, this one is normal. And then the confirmed cases, the one she has confirmed, she then takes it with the machine back to CWM. The images of the echo are stored in the machine, and then once a week, she then takes these images, she sits down with one of the doctors from the children's department, pediatrics department, who then goes over the images with her to confirm whether it is RHD. Then the parents of the child are then called to be notified that, the child has been found to have some abnormality of the heart, and then for them to come in. Then parents are requested to come in with their child to see a doctor in the children's department. To then they go through the counseling. They're explained about the condition. This activity is a pilot activity done by the Ministry of Health. We're just in the Suva subdivision right now. We are trying to see trying to test the feasibility, how it works, and then at the end of it, and all these steps that I've outlined, at the end of it, there's going to be the program will make some recommendations to the ministry to help them make the decision whether it is feasible or possible to then carry out this service, this activity in other parts of Fiji. So at the moment, it's still a pilot activity done in the Suva schools currently. The penicillin is not a cure; it's a treatment for the condition, for the disease. So it's for those who've already had rheumatic fever and also rheumatic heart disease. So those children who have been diagnosed with either rheumatic fever or rheumatic heart disease, they're more at risk of getting another episode of it, okay, by the strep bacteria. So what the penicillin does is to protect them from getting another episode, a repeated episode of rheumatic fever. So because if they're not on it, if they get repeated episodes of rheumatic fever, it causes more damage to the heart valves, the heart muscle to get tired and fails. So the most common complication of rheumatic heart disease is heart failure. So that's what we're trying to prevent with the penicillin. With those who have rheumatic heart disease has different severities. There's different stages. It can be mild or moderate or severe. And so some of them are severe enough that they will need surgery even. When they might need a repair of the valves or a replacement, total replacement of those valves. So depending on what stage or what severity of disease they have, they might require other medications. So to treat the failure or to treat the arrhythmias, and so penicillin is just one of the treatments, but there are other medications that they all go on it as well.
What can we do? How can we help? A place to start is to teach people about RHD and strep throat. That's why I'm sharing this information with you. It's so important. I would like you and people everywhere to understand RHD. RHD may be invisible in many places, but it still ruins millions of lives and kills hundreds of thousands of poor people around the world. So be like me. Educate parents and teachers and public officials and kids who go to school. After all, kids are most likely to get strep throat. Teach everyone what symptoms to watch for, then to know what to do. Remember, 1. We can stop strep throat. That avoids 2. Rheumatic fever, and 3. Rheumatic heart disease. Stop strep. Avoid RHD. When people learn about RHD, they learn how to save lives.
Unfortunately, time has caught up with us again, and this brings us to the end of this episode of Bula Wellness. I hope you enjoyed the program and learned a few things about rheumatic heart disease. Important information that could save your life and even the lives of someone that you love. If you have inquiries about the show or the topic today, like and contact us on Facebook, Bula Wellness at FBC TV, or write to us at bulawellness@fbc.com.fj. Make sure to join us again the next time for our next episode of Bula Wellness. Until then, good night.